baby buffalo lies tangled by a fence, wire biting into its flesh. "Please," it says, "I must reach the sanctuary before they find me." The light here has a thin quality. Colors are oddly muted. There's a taste of something old in the air. "They were hunters of my kind. I am the last born. Every year it repeats. I must run. They must chase. It is the cycle that lets my people survive." You hear hoofbeats. A ways back down the road, a cloud of dust rises. The buffalo struggles. "Please, help me." The wire cuts into your hands, but you untangle the animal. The buffalo charges off as soon as it's free. "Come on!" You glance behind. A trio of riders emerges at the head of the dust cloud. You run alongside the buffalo. "Not far," it grunts. "Just ahead." You see the boundary, a line of rocks that mark the border, but the hoofbeats sound close. The ground dips, and the beast stumbles and falls. I'll be on you any second. You stand defiant in the path of the riders. They're coming in fast, wreathed in dust, but you hold your nerve. The lead rider veers at the last moment. The other two haul on the reins, sending their horses sliding. You're thrown into the dirt. The buffalo crosses the line and turns with a defiant bellow, a primal sound that far outstrips its size. It drags its feet through the dirt, kicking up a cloud of dust. When it settles, the four are nowhere to be seen. You hear the distant clamor of a herd in motion. You've seen migrant camps before, and they tend to look like the town dump. This one, though, on a good day, this could pass for a town. Starched white tents stand tall and many, and a stroll through the grounds finds you neither trash nor trouble. You hear some chatter from a large tent on your left. On your right, a tent in the shadow of the trees emanates a soft buzz. A bespectacled man reads from a black binder to an audience of about 24 migrants.
At this time,
he says,
Mr. Martin vacated the chair in favor of new chairman Mr. London. Mr. Lake was elected vice chairman. Mr. Lake was elected chairman of the Finance Committee. Mr. Horner and Miss Clive were the other members on the Finance Committee. Mr. Lake gave an instructive talk on the duties of that committee. Mrs. James displayed a lamp left by a camper which she suggested should be resold. Mrs. Schwartz made a motion that this be tabled until the next meeting. Total collection for the month, $143.70. Balance at the first of the month, $84.89. Deposits, $173. Bank statement balance, $248.07.
The speaker pauses to turn the page, and in that moment, he finally notices you, standing at the entrance.
What did you hear?
He says coldly. Every head in the place turns to face you at once, and you beat a retreat. The man lowers his paper as you come near. His weather-beaten face is drawn. They say it's spreading. The dust is strangling the land. Half my cattle suffocated in the last storm. We cut open the carcasses to salvage the meat. They were filled with mud. He licks his cracked lips. They stay dry. His land is dying. If the harvest fails again, people will too. You look past him, over his dust-choked fields. You can't imagine anything growing here. Where would we go? My family came here for a fresh start. All we have is our claim. His voice is hoarse. We came here when there was no more work back home. Now this. If we leave, it'll just be something else. Your skin prickles gently, though the sky is still clear. Duster's on its way. Big one. He calls after you. Come by in a week. I doubt there'll be a building left standing. Three delivery trucks sit on the waterfront, their drivers securing the cargo. 12 cop cars form a protective half-ring around them. Their occupants seem to be gearing up for combat. You approach a pair of cops. The broad one pushes shells into a shotgun with a practiced motion and an undercurrent of excitement. His wiry partner indicates the trucks. We got to get these through. Keep them secure. The broad cop grunts. You been living under a rock?
Strikers,
says the other. Socialist motherfuckers, the broad one adds. The wiry cop looks away. The broad cop sneers. Does it matter? They better fall in line. The other shakes his head.
My cousin's out there. I don't think their demands are...
Maybe you're standing on the wrong side. Come on. They walk off to join a briefing huddle. It's a token act of resistance, but it's something. You drop onto your belly, the car between you and the gathered cops, and locate the fuel line. You jab a knife into it. It takes a few attempts, but you nick it just right and cover your face as gasoline pours out. You stand to find the thin cop watching. He looks between you and the fuel leaking over the asphalt. The two of you lock eyes for a long second.
Go.
The inn is the only respite from the rain outside. Enormous trees dwarf even the largest buildings and homes here, and the inn is no exception. But you find its interior as dark as the forest outside. No one is behind the bar. The quiet of the night is broken by the sound of glass crashing into the floor. A huge black tomcat, its coat taking on a moonlit sheen, laps experimentally at the high-proof hooch that it just spilled. The cat pads silently into a darkened doorway, entering the back room of the inn. Its tail swivels behind it hypnotically as it moves deeper into the shadows. You light a match to see by in the darkness, but you still nearly trip on her. A woman, presumably the landlady, her eyes gone glassy and foggy. And on her chest is that damned cat, snout to her face, sucking in the air from her dead lungs.
You see me here? You think you know me? I didn't start out in the gutter. I was raised right. Mama taught me to read off the Bible. But I'd save up my nickels for the collection plate and buy story rags instead. That smell of wood and paper. So I miss them blood-pounding adventure stories. You got any like that? Come on, that can't be true. Sorrow ain't like that. Well, we're talking about the rules. My daddy hated those rags. He whipped me good. Told me hard work's the only way to survive in this world. No use living in my head. But you know, the books I miss the most is the hopeful ones. Got any of those? Well, that one sure makes me smile. Talking about heaven. I guess I had it back then. Lived in a little house in Louisville with a good mama and a daddy who worked hard at the factory. Never knew I had dreams for something bigger till I read those stories. Anyhow, you got any stories that end looking up? I miss those hopeful ones. Sounds like it wants to be a story from the good old rags, but it ain't there yet. Our home, we lived in a little house in town, but the fields were never too far away. When my daddy'd run me out of the house, I'd beat it out to those fields and play cowboys and Injuns, or jump from a tree like a flyboy. Anyhow, you got any stories that end looking up? I miss those hopeful ones. Leaves a warm feeling in your chest, huh? My future. I didn't know then, but my future was all spelled out in those rags. But you know, the books I miss the most is the hopeful ones. Got any of those? Sounds like one of the bad, soppy ones I used to read. Morals and stuff. What I did with the collection plate, I didn't steal from God. He don't need our dough. My daddy wanted me to quit reading them rags. Said it kept me from hard work. Got his wish, but he didn't get hard work instead. Anyway, I'm headed out this way when the sun comes up. I like your tales. Hope we cross paths again.
The Chinook salmon, having come to the end of its journey, is a grotesque beast. A great curved hump on its back, and that deformed hook of a jaw. The raven perched on it is unusually large, with a fat tuft of black feathers wrapped round its neck like a mane. With one practiced peck, it strikes at the salmon's blurred eye and pops it like a grape snapping open under your teeth. After tasting the fluid inside, it turns toward you, beady black eyes glinting in dying sunlight.
You want some? I can't eat this all by myself. Suit yourself.
It steadies itself on the carcass, and some of the uric smell wafts over to you.
Don't look a gift eyeball in the mouth's what I always say.
Its voice is throaty and rough, fittingly.
What are you here for, if not the salmon? People stories, huh?
It tries to preen a stray feather back into place, but it only ends up more crooked.
What's so great about people? You should collect raven stories. Much better. Well, this one's a secret.
It flaps its wings and flies towards you, perching on your shoulder.
You see, there once was this raven who liked to...
And then, instead of finishing his thought, he just snaps at your eye with that sharp needle of a beak. You flinch and close your eyes instinctively, losing your balance and taking an ungainly fall onto the soft sand of the riverbed.
Ha!
Cries the raven, once again perched on the dead salmon.
People always fall for it. You should have seen your face.
Bang! The screen door clangs in the wind. Downstairs, you hear low murmurs. The wind again? Or voices? You are sure this house was deserted. In the living room, two young women are entwined atop a sleeping bag. One has her hands tangled in the other's bright red hair.
I can't believe we found another haunted house.
The red-haired girl laughs. A floorboard creaks under your feet.
Is it a ghost?
One yells. The red-haired girl has jumped up between you and her companion, but relaxes her stance at your words.
Well, if you're talking, you probably aren't a ghost.
The blonde says. The red-haired girl looks to her, then back towards you.
What are you doing here?
The other girl draws up straight,
We
emphasizing the word.
are having an adventure.
The red-haired girl squeezes her hand. She turns back to her companion, her eyes shining. Your presence goes unnoticed as the two resume their hushed conversation. On top of a hillside boxcar, four men in sailors' clothes fix their eyes on the distant waterfront, where a crowd of hundreds clashes with uniformed cops. From this far, the sound resembles some loud, tenacious animal. After a while of silence, one of the men responds. You notice his bruised eye.
Waiting on the police to deal with those strikers so we can get back to work.
The man seems nervous and fills the silence.
Those longshoremen, they're the only ones out here with steady work, and all they do is whine. Makes me sick. One of those bastards dragged me off the pier and...
The police open fire into the crowd. As the shots ring out, the character of the sound changes altogether into terror and pain.
Oh, fuck this. Bye. No point dying for a day's work.
The man crawls to the edge of the boxcar and hops off. The sound of gunfire continues all across the port, but the dense picket line remains unbroken. A weathered man unties a fishing boat from its mooring.
You heading out to fish? Can rent you a boat if you like. The lake's well stocked, but...
He isn't smiling anymore.
There's a monster in the lake. Locals say it's the biggest trout ever to live. But they're wrong. It's not a fish. It's something else. And I'm going to be the one to catch it.
Someone passes a beer into your hand. Waves of chatter wash over you as you listen to the fisherman's stories.
Will's been chasing that fish for years now,
man tells you.
I don't think he'll ever catch it. It's good fun to watch him try.
Eventually, the convivial chatter is broken by a huge splash. Willie floats in the middle of the lake, his boat upturned, his cap bobbing gently several feet away.
Almost had him that time.
He splutters through a mouthful of water.
Almost had him.
The creature looms in an evergreen clearing, blood spattered around its maw, one enormous paw still buried in the flesh of the man sprawled beneath it. The grizzly spots you. Even at this distance, you can see its yellowed fangs. Slowly, deliberately, it begins to advance on you. You drop to your knees, curling into a ball. The only noises you can hear are your breathing and the bear's warning grunts. The bear's rancid breath is hot on your neck as it sniffs you. After what feels like an eternity, it wanders away. You remain still as the light fades. Eventually, you dare to move. It's just you and the dead man in the clearing. It looks dressed for a day foreclosing property, not trudging through the forest. The company here is unsettling, with him dead and you playing so. Fog fills the margins of redwoods, vanishing their high crowns. A strong musk, reminiscent of a gasoline spill, makes your eyes water. Behind distant sets of trees, a titanic silhouette lurches past. Broken lines of blood blotch the stranger's footprints. You come upon a maimed elk, whose sundered antlers have left behind patches of exposed tissue. The sediment-covered corpse seems to have been dragged some considerable distance. The silhouette of the stranger looms at the edge of visible forest. You feel the weight of their eyes upon you. The stranger doesn't respond. They turn and walk into the fog.
Well, hey there. What's happening, stranger? Pull up a seat if you want to share. I guess my deal is pretty clear. You probably see 100 long-haired, bangle-wearing freaks on the road every day. We're the only ones still hitching around, I guess. Bummer, because this is a beautiful place when you take the time to smell the flowers, huh? You know, I'd love to hear a really good, scary story. Oh man, that's really good. Good and scary, I mean. This country. Well, I didn't hate our country, of course, far from it. How could I? It was the only thing I'd ever known. I just thought it was wrong to go burn other people in their homes. So anyway, got any good ghost stories? Anything scary or weird? Oh, wow, that's scary stuff. You are really good at telling these. Traps. Yeah, I felt trapped, stifled, unable to grow or blossom at home. The first time I ever felt free was on my way to San Francisco on the Greyhound. $32 in my jeans and a daisy plucked from the parking lot in my hair. So anyway, got any good ghost stories? Anything scary or weird? Sounds like we're on different grooves with that joke stuff. My past. Well, my parents didn't abuse me or anything. We just disagreed. We still do. I mean, I assume. You know, I'd love to hear a really good... Oh, wow, that's scary stuff. You are really good at telling these. Yeah, free love. That's what it was all about. That's what filled my dreams as a teen. Why couldn't everyone see that we were all just here to love each other? So, you seen anything really hilarious out here? Oh, come on. That shit's so fake. The future. I used to think it was all so clear, so inevitable. It was the dawning of a new age, remember that? Harmony and understanding. Wasn't that easy, huh? Well, there it is. And I feel like I've been doing all the talking. But the sun's coming up soon, so I gotta get ready to go. Heard some interesting stuff about a group of folks getting by up this way. And where are you going? What's your deal, Seeker? What's the future hold for you?
For hours now, you've seen it circling overhead. Its wings cutting across the sliver of sky you can see framed by the crowns of vast redwoods. But it's gotten closer. The cry that echoed from afar now seems dangerously near. And suddenly, the eagle swoops down, claws splayed before it, wings spreading into a crescent of knife-sharp feathers. It dives at you like a bomber biplane, body contracting into a bullet racing groundward. You tell yourself you won't flinch. Something soft and incredibly fast brushes against your face. When you open your eyes, the eagle is climbing toward the sky already. A little forest mouse caught in one claw, wrinkled tail flapping in the wind. A plank has been precariously raised as a tiny jetty over a creek, cutting its way through the woods. She's dressed in a simple baby blue dress of the same cloth as her daughter's. Both are bent at the waist, staring into the clear water.
It fell somewhere in here. It can't have gotten far.
She has the rocky voice of a distraught person who's unused to being distraught.
Hey, you!
She runs toward you, looking through displaced locks of wavy black hair.
Do you see my ring down there in the water?
Your eyes scan the bottom of the water, looking for a glint of metal among the moving shimmers of tiny, silver-scaled fish. You reach down into the water, gingerly grasping a narrow band of gold.
Oh, Lord, thank you so much.
She beams, all but stepping into the water to take it from you.
If you hadn't come around, I'd have lost my grandmother's ring. The ring's magical.
The young girl blurts out. Her mother gives her a mock stern look, as though the daughter has just given away a big secret.
You drop it in the river, and it grants a wish.
The mother laughs, shaking the water from her hair.
Why, I wished a stranger would roll into town with some stories.
Timber! You hear the splintering crack of old growth breaking. A tall, broad man looms in the clearing. He casts a shadow almost as long as the trees. A handful of other men gaze at him with admiration. A slate-blue bull stands to the side, slowly chewing on a patch of grass.
God damn!
Shouts the second largest man, scratches his beard.
Come on, stranger, give it a shot. Try your arm against old Paul here.
He gestures to an axe lying atop a jagged stump, A couple laughs flow through the crowd. You strike out at a reedy spruce. The axe thwacks into the trunk and roots there. You wrench it out and swing again. Your rhythm is shattered by wood splintering. Your opponent has just cut through two thick evergreens growing close together in one fluid movement. Thwack, thunk, thwack. The huge lumberjack is cutting a circle around you, barely stopping to let one tree fall before he strikes another. The bearded man shakes his head, watching with amusement. Another lumberjack claps him on the shoulder. At last, your tree falls. The bearded man steps forward and shakes your hand. Don't feel bad. No one can match him. I'm not even sure he's human. He looks at the woodcutter, now scratching the ox's ears. You gave it your best. That counts for something. This club is quiet and cool and open 24 hours. So you slip into a booth near the back where it's too dark for people to see you haven't bought a drink. Up on stage, a slight little man approaches the microphone. He utters a long, sustained series of low, loud notes, dissonant, like a song stretched out and slowed down. Your heart races. The crowd murmurs and bristles. The walls seem to shift uncomfortably too.
Sing something happy!
Someone shouts. Half the room bails, but you grip the edge of the table and lock eyes on the singer. His next song is even slower and deeper. Your eardrums ache and your eyes water. A waiter struggles unsteadily across the room. Someone in the back shouts,
Stop it!
The singer continues, and you lose track of yourself between the notes. When he finishes his set, you startle awake and realize that your face is damp with tears. The room is empty. The singer's looking at you, smiling, arm extended, an invitation for a solo. He sits in the front row. You sing. Well, something. You haven't heard it before, but you know the words. And as you sing, a radiant satisfaction grows and grows at the center of your chest. Your eyes tear up, and you hit a triumphant final note. But suddenly, the singer is gone. Your ears are ringing, and there's a waiter shouting for you to leave. Out on the sidewalk, everyone's losing their lunch, but you feel strangely warm. Love. A song about love. Too bad you can't remember the words. This dapper little peddler shifts restlessly from foot to foot beside his cart, wringing his hands and glancing around as if he's in some kind of mild agony.
Hey,
He calls, holding up a quarter.
I gotta piss. Will you watch my stuff for a minute?
He flips you a quarter and hurries off down the road. 5 minutes later, he still hasn't returned, but a whole crowd is marching toward you from the other direction. They start shoving and screaming at you. The man grabs you by the arm.
You working with them?
He shows you 6 tiny, bloody teeth in the palm of his hand.
My daughter's dying.
No matter how you protest, they refuse to believe you weren't involved in the scam. 2 drag you off to the side of the road and begin to work you over with a bunch of rocks in the end of a sock. But someone puts a flame to the peddler's cart. It suddenly explodes in a shower of foul-smelling cures. Your assailants bolt, leaving you face down in the mud, burning scraps of who knows what raining down all around you. Fuck. At least your teeth are still in. This church's doors stand open. You wander in to ask for a glass of water. There's no preacher, only a disheveled music teacher and a class of young men picking out bawdy songs on the organ. The group can't hear you over an improvised erotic limerick shouted over an equally indelicate tune. The verses escalate in depravity until the music finally swells and comes to the grand finale. Smiling, the teacher invites you to a seat in the pews. A boy returns with water and cookies, and as you eat, the group sings a song about genitalia in perfect 3-part harmony.
Wonderful!
The teacher cries.
Again!
You suddenly become conscious of something heavy in the air. The light of the cigarette breaks the darkness. In its glow, you see the face. Something inside you wishes you hadn't. ¿Quieres esto? He rasps. Then, cigarette. Right, he nods. Live longer. He leans to snub out the cigarette, and his whole body starts to dissolve. You watch him disintegrate until all that remains is a disquieting pile of, well, bone meal? The cigarette still smolders on top of the heap. The bone meal carcass of the cigarette-smoking stranger isn't nice to eat. After a couple mouthfuls, you move onwards, feeling interestingly better than before.
Mis tacones entre el suelo.
An excitable man in dirty suspenders waves you over to a cave mouth.
Partner, do me a favor, friend. Can you, inspect that cave there? Got 2 bits with your name on them.
The cave interior is nice and cool. There's a whole bear hide, treated and tanned, lying on the ground. It'll be a good spot to rest for a time, if not for the human skeleton. Back of the skull has a hole about the size of a quarter. You find a slip of journal paper inside the mouth. Normal bones, which Floyd the respectable prospector ain't touched nor seen much, merely stumbled upon during honest business. The man jumps out of his suspenders when he notices your return.
Friend! Oh, gave me an awful scare. Making me think you got lost in there. Hey, you see those bones? How do you think that fella croaked?
The man cups your hands and screams in rapture.
My sly friend, you didn't tell me you're a detective. I'd have never deduced that in a million years. Lord in heaven, I'm blessed. Blessed!
After he pulls back, you feel something inside your hands. It's a shiny silver coin. Great.
Las aguas de esta tierra y más tardar llegarán fuera de aquí, porque cuando caiga la noche
The snake flicks its tongue.
That's close enough.
It is coiled atop a carved stone marked with faded flecks of paint. The snake laughs, its whole body convulsing.
It's very special. A good luck charm.
It tilts its head.
I'm supposed to guard it, but I'm hungry. If you bring me some meat, you may have it.
The heat has made a family of mice slow and easy to catch. You drop them before the snake, and it gulps them down without chewing. It slithers back, exposing the object.
Take it,
it hisses.
I won't bite. Trust me.
You reach for the idol. The snake quivers as your hand gets close, but it stays put. It flicks its tongue.
Don't be disturbed by how it looks. It'll bring you luck.
The snake slithers off into the long grass. It's an idol, about the size of your clenched fist, carved into the shape of a human head. It's an ugly thing. The side that was pressed into the dirt is a face contorted in grotesque agony. Could this really be a good luck charm? Good things sometimes wear foul guises. Who are you to judge? You stow the idol, trying to ignore its unusual weight.
White Rider, ain't fixin' for to join your faded line. White Rider, don't come to claim me for I had my time.
Well, hey, groovy to see you again. I guess I spilled it all about my childhood last time we talked. If you want to hear about the good old days and the hate, I can tell you something about that maybe. But I want a good story in trade. I share, you share, dig? But anyway, let's keep it grooving. Tell me something funny. Ha! You got a groovy sense of humor, stranger. Choice? I thought we were making a choice to really change the way we lived. But maybe the diggers and the free clinic and the psychedelic shop had their values and lived them out. I don't know. Maybe they burned too fierce, and all those flames were snuffed or hidden when I showed up. So anyway, got any good ghost stories? Anything scary or weird? Huh. Sounds like some kind of done movie. Talking about faith. Yeah, it was supposed to be a place of trust. It used to be, they tell me, you'd show up and there was a place where they'd find you a couch to crash on. Just strangers helping strangers, so much faith in each other and the things they believed. A few years later, none of that was left. So, you got any really, really wild ones? Anything exciting and strange? Oh, wow. You got that straight shit. Totally my bag. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose, right? We had nothing left to lose, I thought. Altamont killed hate and scattered us all to the winds, and I thought the worst had happened. So, you seen anything really hilarious out here? Look, let's keep it copacetic. Don't tell me that fake happy stuff. Oof, really drives me nuts. Joy. All the joy and color had drained out when I got there. The summer of love was over, and it was just a city street. Filthy, with the gray fog and the pushers prowling. I stopped grooving quick. But anyway, what's the most exciting story you got? Oh, that's a totally wild story. It's a blast hearing you tell it. And leaders. No one was in charge anymore. The diggers were gone, the switchboard shut down. Owsley closed up shop, the airplane took off, and the BNs weren't anymore. There's a few lost souls wandering like ghosts in the fog. I hope that was an interesting story. I don't have a lot of people ask me about what the hate was like. Maybe they feel like they know from the news. But they don't. I bet you have a lot of stories like that. So you're gonna have to tell them to me next time, okay? Where you heading next? I'm catching a ride this way. Look for me, all right?
It was 5 days ride from Tulsa when I pitched into the sand. My legs gave out, my body lacked the strength.
The steady spin of the lasso is hypnotic,
Help me out here.
says the man.
I've been hunting this horse a long time. Extra pair of hands will make sure she doesn't get the better of me. She belonged to someone who wronged me. Butch slipped out of this world before I could square things between us, but damn did he love this horse.
He grins.
If she bucks real hard, haul on the rope. Buy me some time. He's dead. His old crew, though, they're still around. They'll bust a gasket when they see me ride in on his horse.
His hand hovers over the handle of his knife.
And then,
He grins.
let's get this done.
He ignores you or doesn't hear. The lasso loops around the horse's neck on the first throw. The rope's in your hands before you realize he's put it there. He slips smoothly onto her back and grips with his knees. She fights, though, bucking hard enough to jar him loose. He slips, tumbling into the dirt, and narrowly avoids being trampled under her heels. The man rolls to his feet, pulling the knife.
Fucking hell! You stupid or just got a death wish?
It's time to run.
No tengo amigos.
You come across the two musicians on the corner, playing no louder than a murmur. The blind one to the left doesn't sing so much as moan. If we are willing, he will teach us to love our brothers, to dance and sing. It continues. We dream of his seat in heaven. Around our heads his flowers ring. O Prince, in heaven we sing for rapture. We all must perish, our flowers and our names. But the flowers in our Prince's kingdom, they shall not perish, they shall remain. There is a joy there, and there is friendship. For our passage we shall sing. We dream of his seat in heaven. Around our heads his flowers ring. They stop and look at you expectantly, nodding at their empty hat. You throw them a coin. Obliged, they both say, and sing the song all over again.
y ruego entre mis suelas, pues cuando mi llama llegue hasta abajo y a mi tren se le acabe guiar, no va a haber nadie más que encabe mi hoyo.
No tengo amigo más que el viento.
You reckon he can make the time? The old-timer elbows you as you try to get a look from the edge of the pen. Thick dust kicking up from the bronco's hooves. The cowboy's body swings like a reed being whipped in the air. He doesn't fall quite yet.
I've been watching this for years.
You can hear him masticate something inside his leathery jaw. Tobacco, probably.
Never know till it's over.
The cowboy's body seems to bend entirely around itself as he sails through the air, propelled by one last buck from the horse. He lands back first on the sand, with a puff of dust and a pained grin.
I was still a kid when Dame started turning my head. Long gams, gleam in her eye, all dolled up, and I was done. I didn't know how to talk to a dame. I was a boy, play acting as a man. But when I indulged in a little liquid courage, I was off to the races. But you tell me, what's the wildest thing you've seen on the roads out here? Anything good and exciting? That's the kind of adventure that sticks with you. First time I stepped out with Louisa, I put on my Sunday clothes, bought carnations, got so nervous I gave the corsage to her daddy instead of her. He never let me forget it. Anyhow, you got any stories that end looking up? I miss those hopeful ones. Leaves a warm feeling in your chest, huh? Choice. My mama wanted me to choose a good Christian woman. But it was my heart that chose Louisa. So I miss them blood-pounding adventure stories. You got any like that? Ooh, tell another like that and you could write a good rag. Don't know how me and Louisa came together. We couldn't have known where we'd end up. Guess we had faith. Her and me and her. But you know, the books I miss the most is the hopeful ones. I seen things 100 times worse than that, I can tell you. Change? I knew I had to change. I thought finding me a doll would make me a man. But no, I was still a kid. I'd have to grow up on my own. Anyhow, you got any stories that end looking up? Come on, that can't be true. Sorrow ain't like that. Sadness? Yeah, remembering it all makes me sad. All the time me and Louisa wasted fighting, you'd think that'd hurt the most. But remembering her smile, her laugh, that's what tears me up inside. Well, here's the sun. Gotta get going soon. All this talk makes me think about my girl. Before our daughter, I never knew what it was like to have a life depend on mine. But once I held my baby girl in my arms, I finally learned my daddy's lesson. What about you? What lessons do you learn as your life goes twisting along?
Oh, no. He's not coming over to you, is he?
Hello there.
The preacher says through a glued-shut smile that's too wide and too smug.
Have you heard the good news?
You're lying, he hisses.
Lying! You do know.
He seizes your face in his gnarled hands.
What is it? What is it?
His knotted fingers tear open your mouth and have just begun reaching inside when some good Samaritans drag him away and off to the drunk tank.
You,
She snaps.
level with me now. Would you walk 10 miles every day with heavy bags under your arms and a silly box on your head for some bent, double-crossing, hopped-up, out-of-shape man? That's what I said, too, at first. I'm sorry. I'm not laughing at you.
In the morning, migrants line the street in an obedient queue, heads down, stomachs grumbling. Every couple minutes, the line lurches forward like the yank of a chain. They're waiting to get into a warehouse. You can't tell why or what's inside. You don't have all day. As you leave, a woman in a ravaged blue petticoat glides past, wrapping her arms around one of the men exiting the warehouse. "I love you," she whispers. "I love you." He holds a package, brown paper with fresh stains the color of rust. This abandoned rail yard is full of broken old boxcars, so of course people are taking shelter here. The looks they're giving you are a little less than friendly. You search around for an empty space to rest. There's a heap of rags and sticks in the back of this boxcar. You start digging around, looking for tinder, and the heap starts moving. "Hands off," a voice yelps. A long, knotty arm with nails like rusty screws darts out and shoves you away. You see big yellow eyes and a flash of snaggle teeth.
This is my home,
The creature informs you.
Are you moving in? Well, you can't. I have the deed for the car. I do the chores around here. I have a lawyer. I'm respected in the community.
The creature's muddy fist emerges with an official document. The actual deed for the property. There's even a clause describing the boxcar itself, rust and all. The creature's signature is a bloody smear. The creature's arm is long enough to shove you all the way out of the door and deposit you outside.
You don't come into a man's home and set his bed on fire,
he shouts and slams the door shut. Across the street from this bar, a man in full uniform stares fixedly at the horizon. The older guys on the porch are watching him with an expression you read as deep distaste.
That boy wasn't in the war,
one tells you.
His older brother died in France. But Junior here tells people he fought, and he stands there in the middle of town once or twice a week in his brother's uniform, so we gotta see it.
He spits in the dirt. The old man's face blooms suddenly and violently red.
Fuck you! You want to see a poor guy?
He lumbers across the street, and a hunting knife you didn't notice emerges from a sheath you didn't see.
Junior!
He shouts.
You piece of shit! Get out of here!
Suddenly, the old man is flat on his ass. Junior sprints into the long grass. As far as you can tell, the old man is unhurt. He cries,
"Look what he's done to me!"
Rolls up the edge of his shirt. The only wound there is the dark triangle of an old bayonet scar, healed long ago. Looks like the cat staked its claim. "Share a meal with me?" it asks, swinging tail brushing the corpse. He's still partly fresh. It has been a while since you last ate. Can't be choosy in hard times. You sit with the cat and roast the horse flesh over a fire. It's tender meat. It was a beautiful horse, not much older than a colt. Ever been in love? The cat, making small talk. Well, imagine that you loved someone so much that you could not bear to think of life without them. Perhaps you will someday. If you did truly love someone like that, and they didn't know it, and you were brave enough to tell them, and they rejected you, do you think you would be able to just move on? Then how can that love have ever been that important to you? The cat scoffs. I couldn't let go of something like that. I wasn't able to. But he's inside me now. And you too. People throng the fair, filling the air with laughter and chit-chat. Kids thread and weave through the stalls, laughing, and knots of farmers stand discussing the various animals on show. The cow is resplendent. It seems to glow in the sunshine, a winner's ribbon pinned on its bridle. The women smile when they see you looking. The one holding the bridle waves you over.
Ain't she a beaut? First in her category.
The woman sat milking chimes in.
She deserves it, wouldn't you say?
She doesn't wait for an answer.
Want to try some?
You walk over as she dips a cup in the milking bucket. As you get closer, you see the patches on the cow's skin. Thick, irregular clumps of scales. The woman holds out the froth-laden cup. She shrugs.
Suit yourself. They'll be charging top dollar for her soon.
The women exchange a look.
She's
The other cuts her off.
You're a stranger.
She collects the stool, takes the cow by its bridle.
You ought to be going.
de mi suela. Pues cuando mi llama llegue hasta abajo, ya mi tren se le acabe guiar. No va a haber nadie más que cabe mi hoyo.
No tengo amigo más que el viento.
You fear your feet will sink into the dry emptiness of the Great Basin. Every step is a syncopated crack of dried ground and salt underfoot. Even the vultures avoid this wasteland. Was there a road you were supposed to be following? Your throat has gone numb. You're not sure you ever had a tongue. The lonely iron-colored rock rising from the ground is the first thing you've seen in days. The air around the stone shimmers drunkenly in the roasting heat, distorting a figure standing before it. A rider, white from the tip of his hat to the slender legs of his horse. The buttons on his coat glint silver in the sun. Dust doesn't cling to his pressed white trousers. You're tired of ghouls and very near done with psychopomps. Time contracts in the heat. Suddenly, he stands all too close. Some croaking noises clatter out of your mouth as you beg for water, but he doesn't hear you. He's not here for you. You slide down to your knees as he rides on towards someone else. Ahead, on what passes for a trail, another horseman, face down on the ground, ragged and empty. His horse dead a few steps before the spot where he was pitched into the sand. The white rider canters toward him, slow but unerring.
The hoofbeats of 12 horsemen, their course locked onto mine.
A Chevy sedan laden with suitcases chugs to a stop beside you. A woman leans out the window. An infant screaming, and two boys are punching each other in the back seat.
Could you drive us for a while? I gotta feed the baby, but we need to keep moving. I could pay you.
You grip the wheel tight as sounds of chaos fill the car. The boys have begun to wrestle in earnest on the Chevy's bench.
Yorona!
Their mother hisses. Both boys straighten instantly. In the mirror, you see their stricken expressions. The only sound is the baby's soft suckling. You direct the question to the boys in the back, but they don't make a sound. Their eyes are wide and frightened. Patting the infant on the back, their mother chuckles. The boys don't speak another word, even when you part ways down the road.
Don't come to claim me, for I had my time. cried from Tulsa when I pitched into the sand. My legs gave out, my body lacked the strength enough to stand. The horsemen moved upon me then, their leader to my side. He said, son, I think the time has come to saddle up and ride. White rider, white rider, well, day will come, we all will join that line. White rider, white rider, they come to claim me now, I had my time.
I had me a wife, a baby girl, but no livelihood. I tried my hand at my daddy's factory work, but I wasn't up to snuff. For every bottle I filled on the line, I emptied my soul. When the war started, I figured I'd fight for my country. But they wouldn't take me on account of all those years reading, couldn't see well enough. But the Merchant Marine, they took me as I am, and then I had everything. Anyhow, you got any stories that end looking up? I miss those hopeful ones. I ain't getting the joke. Joy. You ever been in a ship rolling on the open seas? The crash of the waves, the captain yelling orders. Those stories couldn't hold a candle to the thrill of really being in the thick of it. But you know, the books I miss the most is the hopeful ones. Got any of those? Leaves a warm feeling in your chest, huh? All I got is memories. The seawater splashing against my face. A new sky, sun setting over a new port. Just a few sips, and I'm back on my ship like the past ain't dead and gone. Anyhow, you got any stories that end looking up? I miss those hopeful ones. Well, that one sure makes me smile. Authority? You pegged me right. Never liked being told what to do. Not the way my father dished it. But when it comes to the sea, you do what you're told. For yourself and your brothers. But you tell me, what's the wildest thing you've seen on the roads out here? Anything good and exciting? Nothing's funny just 'cause you call it a joke. My fate? I was supposed to be in the cargo hold. crate of munitions got loose, but I was running late. If I'd been there when the ship got hit, done what I was told, I'd be dead for sure. Maybe it'd be better. So I miss them blood-pounding adventure stories. You got any like that? Well, fear is cheap. I used to read. I had a family, but out on the sea, I got another. One I hadn't reckoned on. Good men all. Crying shame what happened to all of us. Ah, here's the sun. Time for me to get going. If you ever find yourself over this way, ask around for me. I'll have more stories for you about the sea and the brothers I left behind out there. They're always on my mind. Always will be.
There's a rustling in this cactus patch. Down where the spiny paddles disappear into the sand, something is writhing around. At first, you think it's an antelope, perhaps, fallen among the thorns. Oh, fuck. That shrunken human skull whips around to stare at you. And those hands, God, like talons. They scrabble in the dirt. Before you know it, you're flat on your ass 20 feet away. The nude, withered corpse continues peeling himself out of his shallow grave.
"Help me,"
he shouts.
"Damn cactus grew on my coffin."
His fingers are so slight and delicate that you can scarcely believe your tugging doesn't rip them clear off. Soon he's free, but too fragile to stand.
"Fuck this,"
he rasps. He buries his head in his hands, his skull hitting his palms with a papery slap.
"I've been cursed 2 times. Once to live forever, but the second time to die. How'd you think the 2 magics fought it out, huh? I'm dead for sure, and certainly alive."
His tongue scrapes along his teeth like a dried thorn.
"Keep trying to kill myself? Tried getting shot."
He points to the ragged constellation of holes in the side of his head.
"Paid someone to chop my head off, but he chickened out. Maybe I can grind myself up and I'll just be some kind of thinking dust? Yeah, wouldn't mind that."
He's clearly delighted. He extends one leg like a dry stick of wood.
"Got a knife? No? Rub a stone on it or something."
You oblige, gripping his ankle in one hand and going to town on his toe tips with a sharp rock in the other. You continue for a few minutes in complete silence.
"Please stop,"
he finally blurts.
"God, this isn't gonna work. I'll forget it. I'll just figure it out myself. Thanks."
He shrugs, an uneven jerk, ending with a crack as the tight skin along his shoulder splits.
"Say, how far to the nearest combine harvester? Think I can get there if I roll up like a hoop snake and let the wind push me?" "Damn. Well, take a hint from me, which is, don't fuck with a witch or any kind of anybody who does witch stuff."
You beat it toward the horizon, glad that you didn't have to compare curses with him. The strains of ragtime rise from an almost tuned piano. At the bar, an older woman, dark-haired and striking, toys with her cigarette holder.
Hope you don't need lodging,
the bartender tells you as you sit.
the hotel's haunted.
At that, the woman chuckles.
It's an old story. Way they tell it, there was a lady living on the 5th floor. She liked to have a good time. Now, she had a boyfriend who didn't like that so much. Got jealous. One day, she disappeared. Can you guess what they found in her room?
She grins at you.
No one. Just a pool of blood. And a note from the boyfriend saying she'd be sorry if she didn't listen to him. He got arrested. Couldn't prove anything without a body, but he stopped drinking after that. Maybe even stopped being mean. You think he did it?
She laughs.
I doubt it, but it scared him good. Some fool hotel maid thought she saw the lady in that room after. Now everyone says it's haunted.
She laughs.
I'll tell you a secret, though. If I'd have known what would happen, I wouldn't have gone back for that necklace.
The railway was a fast route between two towns, But the oil which promised to make each town rich was never there. The track died fast. The citizens, like the bird, survive on pickings. The vulture gouges at a cow's jawbone, a piece of paper trapped under the skull. Your motion disturbs the bird, takes off with an air of disdain. The buffalo is long dead. There was no meat left. It lands again, not far across the track. The note tears as you pull it free. I can't wait longer. Ran out of food.
Mary, I can't wait longer. Ran out of food, so had to hunt. I hate it. I said we'd leave for a new life, but not one like this. Guess you've changed your mind. If you still want to marry me, I'm going north. I love you.
The rider did not make it far. Some 200 yards across the track is a body on its back. It stinks. Marks in the dirt indicate someone tried to move it. Its arms are folded over its chest. A once white handkerchief has been used to cover the man's face. The clothes at the front are bloody and torn where they've been pecked by birds. There's no obvious wound that hasn't been inflicted after death. When you roll it over with your foot, the killing blow is obvious. A shotgun blast to the back. It's short range.
Hey, long time no see, fellow traveler. You're lucky. I'm bored and I'm itching for someone to lay a story on me. I told you about hate and how I missed the summer and walked right into the fall, right? You want to hear about following the dead? It was a few years of bliss and acid. Then I found its problems. So, you got any really, really wild ones? Oh, shut up. That's not scary at all. Look. I was so lucky. For a while, it felt like a charmed life. Here it was, everyone sharing, getting along, traveling together, and sharing this music. It was smaller than the hate scene, but wonderful. So anyway, got any good ghost stories? Anything scary or weird? Oh, wow, that's scary stuff. You are really good at telling these. The past? Sometimes you drop out of the scene and realize that the straight world thought you were the past, that the hippie scene was dead and gone. But while you were there, it was timeless. But anyway, know any good sad ones? Keep it real, though. Something sad and real. Oh, wow. Do you know what happened next? They deserve a little love after that. Sadness. The saddest thing was that the real world followed us in, you dig? There were still fights, there was jealousy, people ripping off shit. We were a family. But families have problems too. You know, I'd love to hear a really good, scary story. Oh man, that's really good. Good and scary, I mean. It was a family. We called it a family. We still do. You can recognize each other if you're hip to it, even off tour. We have our symbols and magic words. So anyway, got any good ghost stories? Anything scary or weird? Come on, don't be a drag. That's not true. Travel was a big part of it, yeah. Always, constantly on the road. Sometimes the band would take a few months off, then you'd crash somewhere for a bit, work some gigs. Here's the sun. That brings me back. We used to talk all night long when I was following the dead, too. That's what I think I was really looking for. Community. People to share my life with. But I loved the life. I'm headed this way. Keep an eye out for me, okay? Maybe we'll share a fire again soon.